Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. We're going to take a look at a game of Conquest Last Argument between the Dweghom, with me playing Dweghom, and Spires, with Chris on Spires. This is going to be on the mission Breakout, which I'll talk about in a minute. Bit of a fun one. This game was my first experience of this particular matchup, Dweghom versus Spires, and I have decided to go away from using the Earth School on the Dweghom. I did really want to like it, and I really saw a lot of potential in it. But the thing is that Dweghom at the moment just pumps out so much damage just from the spells, and it's just so boring, I know. But they really do need an overhaul as a faction, so I just hope Parabellum continue to, as they have been, like, I hope they continue to sort of come back and rework the spells. And this game is going to have a little look at about how that plays. With the Spires, as you guys know, I have been scanning them into Tabletop Simulator to use. Had a couple of games with them last weekend, which did not go very well because I'm just not a very good Spires player. I'm too much in the 100 Kingdoms mode, thinking about the list building in a totally different way, but I'm starting to get used to them, and hopefully we'll have some bat reps from TTS with Spires if I can get some really decent close games recorded properly. Anyhow, let us go to the mission, which is going to be this one. It's Breakout. So this one has two objective zones in the middle. The one on your left is friendly. The one on the right you've got to destroy before you can actually take care of this middle zone. So you can't actually score on the circular zone unless you've taken out the opponent's objective marker. So that has to be unlocked later. During the middle of the game, the middle circle is worth more, and at the start and end of the game, the side ones are worth more. But there's a point for destroying the enemy Warlord, and that's really about it. You can get multiple points for, or bonus point for having multiple zones, I should say. But during this game, the scenario didn't really have a lot of effect. It was more about the actual direct stuff, so let's just grab these lists here. So this is a list which just simply includes the models that I have. I don't have a big Dweghom collection. This is really all I can field at the moment. The only alternative really is the Hellbringer with the Dragon Slayers, but that's not really as good as this build when you're talking about elemental potency with 4 spellcasters. So I have been running the Tempered Steelshaper. I really love the healing. It's a really cool style, but going back to the Tempered Sorcerer for the 2 spells a turn, it generates more tokens and it does more damage, and there's just, Dweghom were just completely dominated in the meta for a really long time, and it's only until they recently got toned down and sort of weakened a little bit, and other factions made a bit stronger, that they've sort of fallen off the roost. But they're definitely in the top half, and there are just so many lists out there that can't really survive the relentless fireballs that keep coming their way on top of the shooting and the good defensive abilities from all the tokens you generate. So Tempered Sorcerer, Graft of Fire, I think you can really afford to take wounds on him while he's on the Drake. Everything else pretty much unupgraded. The Kerawegh has the Flaming Oratory for Tenacious. That works really well when he's in the Flame Berserkers or the Initiates. I kind of like him in the Initiates, but you often see him in the Flame Berserkers as well. That's just the way it's done. My opponent bringing out the Siegebreaker. This is a really cool piece because it has Smite. Only attacks 10 though. Anything with evasion kind of thwarts this guy's abilities, and with Dweghom, if he runs into stuff like the Automata or the Hellbringer Drake, which have evasion, you can then spend the elemental potency cheating tokens on to avoid this guy's effects. But he can be quite dangerous. It's a very good way to beat up things like Ashen Dawn, obviously, and other monsters that are very tough. Anything that can get up to that massive defense 3 to 4 with Blessed, especially if it has no evasion. Lineage Highborne, normally you'd see Pheromantic override with the command Pheromones and Cascading Degeneration. He's gone with Venom instead of Cascading Degeneration so that he can put it on the High Clone Executor. He's taken the additional neural receptors, allowing him a couple of extra mutations. So obviously they all have Aura of Death 4 on the Vanguard clones here, and then he's got the little bonus to stats, which he's combining with Neural Override so that when he does do a duel, he can actually pump out an absolute absurd amount of damage. But duels are unfortunately a bit weak in this game at the moment. It's just too easy to decline a duel with very few negative penalties Old Dominion at the moment are almost completely unaffected by it, unless they're trying to score a zone. So I know Parabellum did rework duels recently, but I think they need to have another go at it. It's not really working that well. So these upgrades, I feel, just don't really get great value. Biomancer with Dynamic Coordination, really just about the reliability of healing there to keep the Force-Grown drones alive. So that's the list that Chris has planned for this one. Okay, where are my photos? Here we go here. So this is gaming night at our local shop. We've got Hayden and Matt in the background playing Undead Old Dominion against Woodrune. Starting the turn off with 4 cards here. So the Sorcerer and the Ballistae come on automatically as lights, and I roll for the Flame Berserkers and Automata, and I get them as well. My opponent only has the Force-Grown drones to bring on, and that's it. So he does that. They come in through the middle of the table, and then I bring in the Ballistae and the Fire Sork opposite that. I felt like because the armor piercing and because the resolve of the drones is going to be good to start with, shooting at them will be fine. And if he decides to come over my side and engage with me, well, the Ballistae are going to hold against that reasonably well, and I can shoot the fireballs into combat, and I can bring in something behind these guys to also shoot in. So I should be able to deal with the drones in the long run. The thing about deploying opposite here is that if I can just shoot them down, it's going to get around the whole lethal demise thing with the Force-Grown drones. In fact, I can't remember if he did put lethal demise on that particular regiment this game. It's just that he normally does. My opponent really likes to use that combo. But anyway, I think this is still a decent choice. And then to the right of that, we've got the Automata and the Flame Berserkers going over here. So the thinking is, if I just move my face over here, so this zone to the right-hand side, the Flame Berserkers can move up. They're not light, but the Kerawegh can come in behind them and cast a spell onto them that allows them to score. So that's the strat there. The Automata are in a position where they can use their high mobility to go either left or right. There's also a little hill in the middle of the table, which they can use for cover if he brings his marksman clones on in the near vicinity. And if he ignores them, I could go after his objective here and chip away at it so that I can unlock the middle of the table to start scoring. Or if he moves his Force-Grown drones after my Ballistae there, I might be able to flank him with the Automata and do a fair bit of damage from the side. So feeling fine with that. Turn 2, I have only mediums in this list, no heavies whatsoever, so a big chunk of my army comes on. We're going to start with the Fireforged and the Steelshaper, then everything else. The trick really is just to start building up those elemental potency tokens. So here they are. We're bringing them on the right. The thinking here is that the Initiates will come in behind the Flame Berserkers to put Rancor or whatever the spell is onto them to make them score, and then the Initiates come up behind them. Once the Flame Berserkers are inevitably destroyed, I'll try and take that zone with the Initiates themselves and just tank whatever my opponent throws into them. And you want those Fireforged nearby so they can shoot into combat. That's when they really excel. So my opponent decides to be aggressive here. The rest of his army hasn't really caught up. He hasn't really passed a lot of reinforcement rolls. So he makes a march charge onto this objective zone to just get even further across the battlefield, putting him in range of my Ballistae already and without really anything else to support. So the thing about this is that he's choosing to sort of just get stuck in without waiting for everything else to appear. I can move my my Inferno Automata up here, allowing me to march charge his flank next turn if I so desire. But you can sort of see, can't you, that attacking this unit currently has no penalties. There's nothing else nearby that can really punish me for getting out of position. He then brings his marksman clones in behind them onto the hill. They will be able to do a bit of shooting, but I mean, we're talking about 15 shots at Volley 2, no armor piercing. They're not going to do a lot of damage in the short term. It's more in the long term, if you just don't deal with them, that they will start to wear me down. Dweghom, pretty heavily armored faction though, so these guys aren't expecting to do tons of work, but they should be useful. Over here, So I now activate the Ballistae. They are able to move up and shoot, and this is a regiment that's only volley 2, but throughout this game I started to have some very good luck, especially with this unit. So they fire off at volley 2, 10 shots. The character himself has 5 shots as well at volley 3, and the drones are very lightly armored, just the defense 1 plus the shield, and he fails most of those rolls. Over here, the Berserkers just camping on the zone. They don't want to venture too far forward. The main theme of this battle report is about overextension. You know, you send a unit too far into enemy lines, they get cut off and they get attacked without, you know, you gaining any ground in terms of positional advantage to counterattack your opponent's units. And I'm trying to avoid that here with the Flame Berserkers and just waiting for the rest of the stuff to catch up. So here comes the Initiates here, right in behind them, and that allows the Kerawegh to cast the spell that gives +2 to scoring onto the command stand of the Berserkers, giving me some points at the end of this turn, and of course giving me more tokens to use from Elemental Potency. So turn 3, we're going to start with the Sorcerer as the first card, chaining into the Ballistae, because you can activate a regiment if the character's in it, and you can just go straight into it without your opponent spinning a card. So with the Force-Grown Drones already having lost a stand due to my shooting so far, I can activate by aiming and shooting, doing even more damage from the unit itself plus the character. The unit's 10 shots on 3s with AP1, character 5 shots on volley 4. Then the character will fire a fireball, which is 7 dice needing 3s, and any hit will go straight through armor because it's AP2. That'll cause resolve checks. So a big opportunity for me to blast him before he can regenerate. That's really massive. So that's the only thing this turn that really matters. I've got way more cards than my opponent, so the other stuff that's showing up at the end, like the Steelforged, the Automata, can actually move out once it's safe, really. So I do win the roll, and the Sorcerer activates, shoots a fireball into the Force-Grown Drones, and really hurts them quite badly. And that chains into the Ballistae, who, you know, get another round of good luck, and my opponent is rolling very badly on resolve checks and stuff like that. So if you look to the left there are 6 stands of Force-Grown Drones plus the Biomancer in there. And I go to the next photo, and there are now 2 stands of Force-Grown Drones and a Biomancer, and they are broken. That's terrible for Spires. You can't heal while you're broken, so when he activates, that's going to be a problem. But, yeah, I can't overstate how much of an advantage this is for Dweghom right off the bat. The Force-Grown Drones are normally a really difficult piece to remove because of their healing, but if you can whittle them down and break them, you can pick them off very easily. And he's only really done 1 damage to that objective, so not expecting to lose that either. All right, so bringing in the whole warriors right in behind the Ballistae, this is so that once the Force-Grown Drones have been dealt with, I can just move the warriors straight through the Ballistae and then go and capture the zone in the middle, because being size 2 on those objectives, the warriors can camp the zone, and the unit can actually fire into the objective to whittle it down. Or the warriors can just cross the battlefield and threaten to attack the marksman clones if the Inferno Automata haven't already done that. Now, we have this wonderful piece, the Siegebreaker. He's an amazing model, this crab boy. He's very huge. It's fun to pick him up and play around with him. My opponent has sent him directly opposite the Initiates, which is a good choice. The Initiates have no evasion whatsoever. They will not get the advantage of Tenacious, which is my upgrade to them. They will not get the advantage of the Elemental Potency tokens. They just straight up take wounds for every hit that this guy does. He has to get through the Flame Berserkers, which also are 0 evasion, so he'll do well against them. But one problem that he may have is that in the long run, I also have that unit of Fireforged there, which will kill him in 2 or 3 turns of shooting. So his damage potential may be limited if he doesn't have the support of other units nearby to him. Somebody once said that monsters are flankers, right? A monster is at its best when it's attacking something which is already engaged and you're not facing the full brunt of a single regiment's attacks, and you can spend more time chipping away at things, and as you take a few shots here and there, your capacity isn't weakened because a monster does its full number of attacks and damage, even if it's at 1 wound or at full health. It doesn't really matter. Over here, I've decided to take advantage of this unique situation where I've gotten very lucky with my Ballistae and my first Sorcerer. So what I can do is capitalize on my good fortune by double marching the Warlord Sorcerer on the Drake to within 14 inches of that Force-Grown Drone unit, because when I activate him later in the turn, he can then pump out 2 fireballs to finish that unit off, which will prevent any healing whatsoever. My opponent has activated the Biomancer, he's rallied the unit, so next turn he's probably going to bring back a couple of stands, and it was just going to take longer for me to finish them off. So this is why I'm making that play. I did consider putting him on the other side of the battlefield to make sure I absolutely destroy the Siegebreaker, because the AP2 cannons are very good against that. Same with the Fireball. I do open myself up to being attacked by his Abomination and his Vanguard clones, just sweeping in where my guys have an opening. But for the advantage of being able to finish off his Force-Grown drones and take a big lead in the game, I felt like that was worth it. Over the side, he's got his Lineage Highborne coming in next to the Siegebreaker, which is good. These guys obviously have that once per game ability where they get a free action, so we could use that to move and then march charge or charge clash, hopefully into a target like the Fireforged, so that they have to deal with this unit, and the Highborne obviously can kill them in the long run, giving the Siegebreaker more turns to destroy the initiates, because if it's only the initiates versus only the Siegebreaker will win, because he's going to take barely any damage against the initiates, and every turn he's going to wipe out a couple of stands. So that's really ought to be the strategy there for Spires. Alright, so it comes to the Sorcerer now, unleashing a Fireball and a regular, blast at 0 AP onto the Force-Grown drones, and that eliminates them. That absolutely wipes them off the face of the earth. So that's a large unit of Force-Grown drones and a character already dead, giving me more space to focus on other things and do crossfires. So what really would have helped here, I think, is if my opponent had realized that he's bringing in that unit with no other reinforcements, because he didn't really pass any other medium rolls, and just left them back for a bit. Because if you chip away at them with only long-range shooting, and then they move back a bit, and then they heal back to full health later in the game, that's just such amazing value. So you always want to try and find opportunities to do that without risking, the potential wipeout of your entire unit within 2 turns, which is what's happened here. So the Force-Grown drones are gone from this picture. The marksman clones are now able to shoot at something, whether that's the objective or the... actually, no, it's the Automata on the left there that they shoot at, because they're on a hill, which allows them the height advantage to see over other hills. So that becomes possible. On this side, the initiates have moved up a bit closer just to support there and to potentially grab that objective that the Flame Berserkers are currently on. And we do indeed get the Rancor off again to get +2 stands for seizing onto the Berserkers. The Fireforged, just moving around carefully. We're going to wait until things have come through that forest up the top there, and then they can hopefully shoot at point-blank range. And I've got my Flame Berserkers just to the right a little bit. I can use them to sort of tackle and intercept anything coming over my side. And hopefully, if he engages the Flame Berserkers with either the Avatara or the Siegebreaker, I should be able to shoot those targets with the Fireforged, because A, they're on a hill, and B, because those targets are size 2 and 3 respectively anyway. So that's going to be helpful. Also, don't forget the Steel, what is it called? The Steelshaper has some spells which could be cast onto the Flame Berserkers themselves, like Honed Blades, for example, or Hardened, or anything like that if they need it. Now, he has these Vanguard clones. These guys have the benefit of Cascading Degeneration, so that's going to be problematic. He's deploying behind the hill, so the beast can't shoot them, I believe. Or can it? It's a size 2 hill. I can't remember what size we agreed the hill would be. I don't think we did agree on anything, but this is an interesting play because they can camp this objective next turn, and if I come towards them with that beast, he could march charge me and finish me off, and losing the Warlord would be pretty bad. So to deal with that, I've brought in my Steelforged, using the same tactic as him, just deploying on the other side of the hill. This is going to prevent him from charging and clashing. If he does decide to march and then charge, so that I'm forced to take the hits from Cascading Degeneration, well, there's going to be a lot of hits, but I'm defense 4, there's no resolve checks, so I feel like I can survive. If you see the red playing card at the bottom of this photo, the 7 of Hearts, that's showing I've actually built up 7 tokens for elemental potency right now. So one of these days we're going to see a combat and I could just burn through them to completely neutralize a really powerful attack from him. So feeling pretty good about that. On this side, he's run out of cards. I'm moving up with my Automata, who have taken 1 wound from the archers so far, positioning in such a way that we're 8 inches away from the marksman clones. So if I win the roll, I can automatically charge through, get a bit of impact damage, do a bit of a clash, reduce those archers, and for the rest of the game, he's just not going to have much shooting there. I will lose the Automata eventually, but you know, it'll be worth it in that case. I don't know if you guys can see this, but if you look closely at the top left of the photo, he has deployed some Centaur Avatara right behind those archers there. So if he wins the roll next turn, he'll probably be coming for me. So if we look at the next image here, the Inferno Automata are going to be the first card off the rack down the bottom left. Then it's going to be Steelshaper. Steelshaper next, just to prepare the Flame Berserkers for anything that he might do on my right flank with the Avatara. I feel like there's a possibility he may use the Pheromantic override to march and then do a charge clash onto the guys there. So having like hardened on them would be very helpful. And then at the very end of the stack, we've got the Fireforged. They are going last because I have more cards than he does, and I can punish him for moving forward with a Siegebreaker or his Avatara by getting a round of shooting off on them when they're out in no man's land, which is going to be great. Get them into the kill zone. Everything in between is just like spells and stuff punishing. So the zoom out, this is the beginning of turn 4. This is where we're at. So I have, obviously, right-hand flank looking pretty solid. I've got my Berserkers out there as a screen and the 2 units behind that ready to shoot. If I can get into a position where either the Siegebreaker dies or the Avatara dies, and I've got a couple of units left to face that last unit, I should easily be able to win this flank. The Siegebreaker can't simultaneously kill the Initiates and the Fireforged. He will lose in the long run there. And the Avatara, since they don't have Cascading Degeneration after they've used Pheromantic Override, it'll take them a while to bust through all of that Armor 4, especially considering that I've built up a lot of those Elemental Potency tokens so far. In the middle, he's lost his Force-Grown Drones. He could easily take out the Automata, but I'm going to be able to sort of hold on for quite a long time, and the spells from the Fire Sorcerer, a Sorcerer in the middle of the table, should actually grind him down very slowly in the middle. On the left, he's got the Vanguard Clothes versus both the Steelforged and the Warlord Hellbringer Drake, but there is one abomination left to show up. So he wins the roll. His Avatara march and then charge my my Automata. I'm not in range to use the tokens because you've got to be within 8 of a spellcaster. This is only impact hits though. He's not getting a clash action here, and they are clash 3, but yeah, just not a lot of impact hits, and I do have evasion, so that's why I'm able to survive this. It does kill, I think, 1 stand, and I've got my guys left alive, and they're going to have Aura of Death and everything. But quite crucially, the positioning of this Centaur Avatara unit is such that their flank is exposed to the whole Ballistae. So when I shoot at him with AP1, he'll be defense 3 with no shields going down to 2s. So I should be able to actually take off a stand every time I activate the Ballistae from this point. Alright, so the Steelshaper goes next. He adds Honed Blades for +1 clash onto these guys. Because they are activating so late in the stack, if they get attacked by the Siegebreaker or the Avatara, I'm going to be attacking him at clash 4 in this situation with Inspired on top of that. So that's actually very, very helpful. Alright, so wasn't really expecting this play, but he's deciding to activate his Highborne and use the Pheromantic Override not on the Avatara but onto the Siegebreaker to move it up more quickly to have a surprise attack with it. And I was very surprised by this play because if he just attacks the Flame Berserkers and kills them, well, it's just going to buy me time to shoot him with the Fireforged, put my Initiates directly in front of him, and then probably shoot him again next turn. And the Initiates can probably survive at least 1 round of combat. He's only attacks 10. They're not going to completely wipe him out straight away. So that's a pretty surprising situation. I would have thought that he'd want to sort of save that for the Avatara at the last moment. On this side, I'm double marching my Hold Warriors out into the midfield here. Because his Centaurs have already been committed to the Automata, this is good for me because at defense 2 plus shield, the marksman clones aren't going to immediately kill the warriors. I can then keep marching and charging into the archers eventually. But being in this position also allows me to just attack the objective and just camp the zone and attack other things with the Ballistae. And of course, the Ballistae can shoot over the Hold Warriors because the cavalry are size 2. So, going to the next image, here's where he activates his Siegebreaker, and he's able to charge past the Berserkers, because there's a bit of an angle there. There's enough room. But this isn't even a charge clash. This is a march charge, which clips the edge of the unit here. To be fair, I'm not going to be able to get very much damage onto him, because my character is not in combat. The initiates are very low clash, low attacks, no armor piercing. So next turn, he's going to start shaving off the stands pretty quickly. But it does allow the Berserkers to move past him and go for the Avatara, or I can turn around and attack him in the flank. I just feel like this is an advantageous situation for Dweghom. So you can just see another photo. I just really took this photo really for glamour, really just to show up his backside. Over here, we now have the Ballistae activating. They move up a little bit. They shoot at the Centaur Avatara with their long-range crossbows, AP1, no shields, doing a bit of damage, and enough to kill one stand. There is another Avatara unit that we forgot about. They are just a plain minimum unit of Avatara, and these guys are a little bit too wide for the gap between the marksman and this building here, so they're deployed too wide, and they're coming on a little bit late. Over here, we have a spell going off from the Sorcerer onto the Avatara, doing even more damage onto him, which is lovely. Always casting that Fireball, AP2. Marksman clones, they have the height advantage. They don't want to go after the Hold Warriors because... let me just see if I can make this a little bit smaller, because I'm just missing part of the photo here. That's a bit better. So they don't want to go after the Defense 3 Warriors. They want to go after the... well, I guess the Automata also Defense 3, but they are the ones that they want to clear out so that the Centaurs can go after some other target, I think is the thinking there. Now, we also have this Hellbringer who decides to move up a little bit to get in range to shoot at the Vanguard clones. So doing a bit of shooting against them, AP2, etc., etc. And that'll set me up for the Fireball also, which is important. So I've moved my cam outside of the picture for some reason, misclick. Alright, so he does indeed attempt to march charge the Steelforged because he feels in the situation like the Awe of Death is going to do a lot of work. In reality, it's unlikely to. If you get 16 attacks in this case, or even 20 if you had an additional stand around the other side, what is 2/3 of 20, right? It's something like, I don't know, 13, 14. So you're going to lose one stand to Awe of Death, and then these guys are going to be 4 attacks at Clash 5. They're going to rip up with Cleave 1, and the Vanguard clones just aren't going to be going anywhere anytime soon, allowing the Drake to just shoot them from the side and the fireballs, so they're going to be wiped out very quickly, which is going to give me the side of the table. I think what he should have done probably is just been a bit more cagey, I suppose. With the Drake shooting, like, you can't hang around forever, but he does have an Abomination to bring on. I think maybe a better play for him would have been to have brought those 3 Avatara on this side of the table and the Abomination and just wait for a bit and then advance simultaneously with the Highborne, Vanguard clones, and Avatara, because I've only got 2 regiments over here, so he can just do a bit of a 2-for-1 on one of these guys and then one on the other. Alright, so long-range angle here, we've got the Sorcerer wiping these guys out, taking down 2 stands worth of Vanguard clones with his Fireballs. He's got 2 spells per turn, of course, so that does very, very, very well. Over here, again, we have Homeblades clash on the Berserkers. That's been done. But the Avatara themselves, they decide to be cagey and not move out. Again, this is the recurring theme of you've got one part of your army attacking and the rest of your army just holding back. Probably not the best way to do it. You're sort of feeding things in one at a time. This allows me to attack the Siegebreaker with my bazookas, the Fireforged, and I can just deal with his Highborne and just sort of tie his Avatara up with the Berserkers separately. So we have the Kerawegh casting -1 resolve on the Siegebreaker. This ends up doing nothing. I inflicted like 1 wound total with the initiate, so that's a bit of a throwaway kind of play. He then brings on his Behemoth opposite my Warlord. This will allow him to just charge me next turn. I've built up so many of these Elemental Potency tokens now, though, that the A-Bomb isn't going to do particularly well in this case. We then have the Steelforged able to attack. They have not lost a stand. They've taken 3 wounds, so they didn't actually die to Awe of Death. And then they start absolutely ripping into these Vanguard clones very, very easily. And this is an Inspire clash. You don't even really need Inspire in this situation. You're attacking 13 times on 5s. Inspire's only allowing you to reroll the 6s. And if I just clashed, I could have just marched and possibly even charged that Abomination. Over here, we now have the something. I think it's the Fireforged, maybe shooting at the Behemoth. Then we have the Berserkers. This is a march charge into the Avatara. I do have Awe of Death. I have Defense 3, 5 wounds, Resolve 5. I might not even die immediately to the Avatara, and if I win the roll next turn and these guys activate earlier than the Avatara, they will pump out a ton of hits. So then we have the Fireforged just moving around. They are worried about the Avatara in the long run, but for now they need to get their guns in range and an angle to shoot the Siegebreaker, and that's exactly what they do. They inflict like 6 wounds on him or something. So that's great. All right, we're going to turn 6 now, I think we are at, 5 or 6. And we're going to activate the Sorcerer first into the Ballistae because that's going to potentially allow me to take down those Centaurs, which will allow me to put the Inferno Automata into the Marksman and just really tie up the center of the table and just coast to a victory. The game is pretty close to over at this point, so we'll just go on to the next bit. This is the overview, and you can sort of see why it's very heavily Dweghom favored. Bottom right, the Siegebreaker is not going to be able to kill the Initiates in time. We're going to see the Fireforged have 2 more volleys into him in the next couple of turns and remove him, and then the Initiates can score, or the Fireforged can score. The Avatara probably won't beat the Flame Berserkers in one action, so that's going to give me time to shoot at them with the Fireforged as well. So it's likely to be me taking that flank. In the middle, the Centaur Avatara are about to get hit by some spells and Ballistae shots, and his Avatara at the top there with the Marksman clones aren't really going to kill the warriors very, very quickly, giving more time to shoot them as well. And on the left, it's 1 Behemoth against, Abomination, against my Warlord Drake and the 3 Steelforged, and I've got plenty of tokens up my sleeve, and that flank is going to be won 100%. The Steelforged are going to camp that objective, and then the Warlord can just start blasting the stuff in the center. So pretty much game over. So we'll just whip through it. Abomination charges the Warlord. Some really fun pictures of that, but the tokens block most of his damage, and then lights out. The Sorcerer activates, and the Ballista go as well, shooting down the Centaurs. They're moving very close in behind there, reducing the Centaurs to just 1 stand. The Berserkers go next, and they are caving some faces here. Avatara losing 2 stands. There's another nice little photo of them from the other angle. The Behemoth activates and does trash a couple of stands worth of initiates at this point. The Steelforged charging into the Abomination and ripping him a new one, easily killing him. The Avatara activate, they take some more of death damage and inflict maybe a couple wounds on the Berserkers, but not really very much. The Inferno Automata charge into the Marksman clones after the Centaurs have been dealt with, so they're tied up now. The small unit of Avatara charges round and gets in and does impact hits and removes him, so that's freed up. But we have the Fireforged now reducing the Siegebreaker down to just a few wounds left after another devastating volley. The Warlord can turn around and shoot into the back of those Avatara and then cast spells onto them as well, pretty much almost wiping them out. Over back here we have the Initiates, just combat reforming to get a bit more frontage, but still doing very little damage to the Siegebreaker. The whole Warriors moving through just to prevent anything from being happening over here with the Avatar and the Marksman clones. They're going to be tough enough to withstand that. And the overview, you can sort of see that both flanks are kind of caving in, and the center is Dweghom favored as well. So we go with, that's another sort of overview of the battle there. So yeah, Siegebreaker able to pretty much finish off the Initiates, except maybe one stand before he dies. The whole Warriors are just camping here, waiting for some shots coming their way. The Berserkers are actually turning the tide against the Avatar, only needing to take out one more stand before the carrot goes down as well, and they do manage it. Warlord, of course, getting to activate again and blowing away these guys. And we have like one Avatar turning around to engage him, but he's got plenty of wounds remaining on that Drake. And that's pretty much it. So a kind of a one-sided game to finish off there. But I thought I'd show you this bat rep just since the photos worked out quite well for it. And overall, the theme really for this battle being that if you can create a single battle line where all of your armies there together and your opponent is sort of like attacking you with one regiment at a time without you having a chance to be put out of position anyway, that's usually a decisive game of Conquest, as you guys can probably appreciate. All right, as mentioned, I'm going to be trying to play some more Spires myself on TTS. Last couple of games were with the Under Spires kind of faction. I didn't really like that as much. I'll be definitely going Lineage Highborne with a lot of the big stuff, and I have scanned in the Siegebreaker as well, so we'll see how I play it. But for now, enjoy your day, and I'll see you next time.